There are so many things that could go wrong, and I was very aware of that from the very beginning. I'm shooting my first wedding today, and I'm a little nervous, but I just got here. I'm the first person here, and it's absolutely stunning. The venue is really, really pretty. Not only was this my first wedding that I shot entirely on film, this was generally the first big wedding that I shot at all. I've been mostly shooting film for probably like 6 or 7 years, so it came fairly natural to me to want to shoot film. And this past year I actually got to shadow this very nice photographer that's local here to Athens. And I realized that I think it would be possible to shoot a wedding on film. Not to mention that that is how most weddings were shot up until like probably 2005 or so. Before that, everything was shot on film anyways. And so I didn't think it was too weird of an idea to try to do that. And so shortly after I got to shadow this photographer last year, I got a request to shoot someone's wedding. And at that point, I had kind of made the decision that I wanted to shoot weddings, but wasn't really sure if it was going to be possible on film. And I talked to the bride about it, and she was fully on board with shooting it on film. At a certain point, you kind of have to make a decision. If you don't have just unlimited resources, you kind of have to decide, do I want to invest in a digital equipment? Of course, there's some overlap, but you kind of have to make a decision. And I just decided that I love film. I'm very trusting of film. And so I made the decision to go fully in the direction of film. So for this wedding, I got a few extra accessories. So this is everything that I brought to the wedding. I mostly shoot with a Spotmatic. I think this one was made in like the late 60s. That was my first film camera, and this has been the one that has gotten me through almost all the shoots I've done so far. I have a second one of those, and on that one I put a telephoto lens for my second shooter to use. Those are really like my main two cameras that I was using throughout the day. This is my favorite portrait lens, and I would say that most of the things that I shoot on this one, but I also had gotten a wide angle lens just because that other one is quite narrow. The wide angle lens just makes it possible to have group shots and kind of go a little wider. So I had been looking into medium format cameras for a while, and I really wanted one, but I was also intimidated, and they're very hard to find right now. If you're getting into film right now, you might be wondering where you even get film cameras, because they're so high in demand and very low in supply. Just the other day, I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Atlanta today, because I'd gotten so many recommendations from people to go to this one little photo store in Atlanta. And I went there, and I walked in, and this very nice guy, I'll actually link his Instagram account, he's awesome. He was just in the process of putting up this medium format camera for sale. I told him, give me 10 minutes, I gotta decide on this. But I kind of saw it and fell in love with it immediately when I saw it. So yeah, I got it, and I was very happy with it. And we did one test roll before, but we didn't actually have time to get it developed. So we were shooting with this medium format camera for the very first time that day, the day of the wedding. I know that was a pretty big risk, because I did not know if there was something wrong with the camera. The reward for the risk ended up being very high, and I was super happy with some of the medium format shots that we got. And it's surprisingly easy to shoot with if you come from a 35mm background, and the clarity, the size, all of it is really beautiful and kind of mind-boggling. Those turned out to be some of my favorite shots, and actually, because I was pretty focused on getting those main shots, my secondary shooter, who's also my boyfriend, he got a lot of really awesome like detail shots and kind of shots where no one was paying attention to him, and I just really appreciate those. What's funny, and what I am taking as a sign that I decided correctly with using film rather than digital, and I ended up bringing my digital SLR as well, which is it's not a great camera. And I did shoot like a little bit, like some of the portraits, like the bulk portraits. Also, while my second shooter was changing film, I could kind of like continue entertaining. Like if I had like a great group shot and I wanted them to kind of stay that way, if I just like take pictures while he's changing film, I could continue entertaining them and keeping them in that pose. And I was going to use it at night for more flash photography because I don't have a great flash setup for my film cameras yet. And that camera ended up being the only camera that failed on me throughout the day, because at some point, I still don't know what happened, but it fogged up, like the inside, not the lens, but the inside of the camera fogged up. Yeah, it was basically unusable after, I think since right after the ceremony, which ended up being fine because I had so many other cameras. But I just thought about it for a second and was like, wow, I'm gonna take this as a sign that I can fully trust my film cameras. And so because I have so many different cameras with me, that I used all of them, and every single camera that I brought had a specific purpose. Because I like rotate the camera so quickly, I don't really like using that harness. I have used it before, and it is nice for certain situations. I kind of need to use all of the cameras at the same time because I want to get the shot in like different versions. I actually use my little backpack because I was tired of carrying the cameras kind of like in my arms like that. So I got that one at Walmart. And it's just like this little backpack, and I zip it open. Whenever we go to a location that I want to shoot at, I just put it down next to me, have all of them ready to go, and then I can just pull them out, shoot, put them back in, take another one, shoot, put it back in. So that has been very nice. Also, my second shooter, if he sees something that he wants to shoot with a specific type of camera, it's not strapped to me, I'm not holding on to it, so he can quickly go and take it out of the bag, put it back in, and for workflow, that has served me very well. And I do this for smaller shoots as well. So a fun fact about my cameras and about lighting is that none of my cameras have functioning internal light meters, which basically means that I am shooting purely off of intuition, more or less. So at this point, I have enough experience with film camera to know if it's sunny outside, I put it on a shutter speed of 250, and I put it on an aperture of 5.6. And that is for basically everything that's sunny. Then I go from there. Film is a lot more forgiving than you would think. So it's not like you have to get it perfectly right in order to have a good picture. Especially Kodak Portra 400 is known for versatility when it comes to lighting. As long as you don't severely underexpose photos, you can definitely get a good shot of it. It's pretty difficult to overexpose a photo. Obviously here in Georgia the light is very bright and harsh, so I did get a little bit of too much light in certain situations, but those were also when I basically had the aperture closed almost all the way and the shutter speed at 1,000, and still it was so bright, which is beautiful. I think it's beautiful, but it's so bright that the light was still pretty harsh. But that's just the lighting conditions, and it's true to the day. Like the light feels harsh, so if the pictures have harsh lighting in it, then to me that's true to the event. I'm not trying to fake anything there. But yeah, generally film is very forgiving when it comes to lighting, as long as you do not underexpose it. And to help me not underexpose it, or if I'm unsure, if it's cloudy and I don't know, or if I'm just whenever I'm unsure, I actually have a little app on my phone that is a light meter, and you can put your ISO, like the film ISO, you can put that in. It will tell you shutter speed, you can switch aperture, and it will show you a range of what will be okay for that film. Both the Mamiya and the Spotmatic have light meters on the inside of the camera, but neither of them work on mine. So I shot completely without light meters. I actually had like a minor freak out moment the night before the wedding because we accidentally left the new medium format camera, the Mamiya 645. We left the light meter on and it doesn't automatically shut off. The battery was basically completely drained. I kind of freaked out a little bit about it the day before, and then was reminded by Chris that I used to shoot without light meters all the time. and that I actually feel pretty confident with it, and that I can trust my judgment of lighting, and I was like, oh yeah, actually that's very true. And I really enjoyed shooting without a light meter because you start to focus a lot on it if you're like constantly checking it. And if you just check your light and then go from there, I think that's the better option for kind of more that like intuitive shooting. There is that Sunny 16 rule that people always reference, but that's just too complicated for me. I genuinely just don't get it. And it's probably because I never actually looked at it, but for me, my rule that I use is 250 5/6. There's so much personal preference involved that you really just learn with experience what you like and how you like to shoot. For the shooting experience overall, I think because you're metering and because you're like loading film, you're not just like clicking a bunch, you kind of think about each shot a little bit more. The whole process of photographing people is a bit slower than if you were to shoot digital, but I ended up actually really enjoying that. And I don't have a comparison because I haven't shot a wedding digitally, but I ended up really enjoying this. And I had talked with the bride before, and we wanted a good documentation of the day, but for her, she wanted everyone to just enjoy themselves and not get photoed out. I just tried really hard to let them know that yes, I am taking photos and I would like them to focus on that, but to just chat, have a good time, hang out. And so that made those breaks where I was, for example, loading film or like adjusting, they were just having a great day. They were just chatting, just having a good time, and I was there to document it. So I actually really liked that experience of taking slower photos because you spend more time on each shot. The fail rate is so much lower. So there's very few photos where people look bad because I try to really time it right. I mean, obviously sometimes people blink and that's fine, then you just take another one. I just think that there's a much lower number of total duds, especially for like post, like editing, stuff like that. It's very nice. There's really a large amount of photos on there that I think are keepers. I also loaded one of the point and shoots with a black and white film stock so that I could have a black and white kind of all the situations that we're going through throughout the day, and that ended up being really nice. I have some pretty good flash photos from the evening that I really enjoy, and it was just fun. I mean, you have to get over the fact that it looks a little silly, like you're a professional photographer and you whip out this little 90s camera, and it just looks a little silly when you're shooting with such a small camera, but there is something about it that just makes it feel good. Like the images just feel different and they feel instantly nostalgic, and it's still very high quality photos. It really shows that a lot of photography doesn't really have that much to do with the tools that you're using, but more about like what you're seeing. You're trusting your eye. I think you can create beautiful imagery with a point and shoot camera. I don't know if I would necessarily trust shooting an entire wedding on just that type of camera, but honestly, I think you could. Like, I think you could get a great documentation of a wedding from point and shoot cameras. Maybe I'll try it someday. Maybe someone will let me try it someday, but I think it would be really awesome. Definitely very unique. The Polaroid that I had, I just think that adds so much. Chris, my second shooter, doesn't love it that much, but I had talked to the bride and she was really into it. And it's surprisingly difficult to get good photos with Polaroids. They're a little fussy. Like, it's very easy to overexpose. It's very easy to put people in the wrong composition. It sounds so easy to just like shoot a few photos with a Polaroid. Those were actually the pictures with the highest fail rate for me. Of course you can just task a friend with doing that, but if you don't want to spend the time or like the thought to figure out how it really works and how to get good imagery, then you're probably not going to get good imagery. So I was really happy with, I think I got like 9 really good Polaroids that I personally really love. And I got those scanned in. I love them, and I was able to deliver them basically right after the wedding. Also, a big part of the motivation for me to shoot this wedding entirely on film was that a while ago I was a guest at a wedding. There was this photographer who had like the best gear. He had like a whole lighting setup, and he had a very nice digital Leica camera. And I just kind of struck up a conversation with him. And when I told him that I was about to shoot a wedding entirely on film, he literally just scoffed at me and thought that I was so stupid and not a good idea and that was not possible. And that just really motivated me to try it, because I just don't see a reason why it wouldn't be possible. And there are so many expectations around weddings and like what photography for a wedding should be. But I think that most of those are not necessarily accurate. And I think that there's so much to documenting a day, documenting like a celebration like that, documenting a very big milestone in people's lives that is more intuitive and more, it can be more creative than what you expect of it. And I just feel like there's so much opportunity to create beautiful imagery, beautiful storytelling, like very good memories for the couple and the family. And I just think there's so much more to it than like the standard, what you would think of wedding photography. I think there's more to it, and I don't think that you have to limit yourself. If you have a vision and you have people that believe in that vision, then I think shooting a wedding on film is interesting, fun, I think unique, and I think it's coming to that. I think there's a lot of photographers who are embracing film, which to me is very nice. So yeah, I believe in it, and I think anyone should believe in it. If you're kind of nervous about trying it out or being unsure, just take a point and shoot camera with you. They're fairly cheap. I can recommend that you skip the point and shoot camera and go straight to one that's about like the Pentax spot mag. So it's basically an SLR, and just bring that along and try to incorporate it. And I'm pretty sure that most people will most likely fall in love with it once they use it. There are a couple of things that I wish I had done differently in retrospect. And one of them was that I shot too many rolls of film early in the day. And I kind of wasted, I feel like, a lot of frames because I was just going so fast for a while because I was so excited. The lighting situations at the beginning of the day weren't ideal because we were indoors, and I should have just slowed down a little bit. And that's kind of what I did later, and that's when I got the best imagery, is when I slowed down later on in the day. We didn't really discuss the game plan for the ceremony pictures, and so I think the main shot that I wanted to get was obviously like a great ceremony space photo, and I did get that, and I did get the one shot that I really wanted of the bride and her dad walking down the aisle, but we didn't really talk too much about what other pictures are important to them for the ceremony, and so I was kind of like posted up in a weird spot because I was just focused on getting that dad walking down the aisle shot, which I got, which was great, but I could have been better prepared for a ceremony and for just getting other shots that are also meaningful for that ceremony. And then the third thing that I probably would have tried to lean into more is taking flash photos when it got dark. That's an issue with film photography, that it's pretty difficult to get low light situations figured out. I should have really, at the end of the night, leaned into and like really trusted my point and shoot flash camera, because I got some of my favorite images are from that little point and shoot camera with the flash on, and I should have really just filled up 3 more rolls with that film tonight because I ended up loving it so much, but I just didn't. And it was already like, I was basically 12 hours in, or 11 hours in, and I was also getting really, really exhausted, and so I was kind of slowing down a little bit. And I think next time I'm gonna take it slower at the beginning of the day and then really ramp up at the end of the day, and that's kind of my intention for the next weddings that I'm doing. For developing, I just took all the rolls of film and gave them to this lab in Atlanta, and I dropped off 25 rolls of film at 1 p.m. the Tuesday after the wedding. And at 9 p.m. I had every single roll of film back scanned into digital files so that I can then edit them. And so the turnaround time was super, super quick. Definitely recommend this lab. And there's a lot of amazing labs out there that focus purely on developing and scanning. Yeah, overall, maybe this wedding, because it was really beautiful and everyone who was there was amazing, maybe this spoiled me a little bit for future weddings, but I think I'm gonna take the risk and try it out. I had zero film cameras fail on me. No roll of film came back blank. Like I genuinely really liked the results that I got, and the bride and groom also enjoyed their photos a lot and really liked the unique aspect of shooting on film. And so I'm very thankful for this first experience, and I really think for the future that I'm going to heavily lean into film. Maybe eventually I'll get a digital camera as a backup, or maybe have an additional shooter doing just digital photography while I'm focusing on film. I don't know yet, but this was a great first experience, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to kind of trust my own vision with it. So yeah, if you have experience with film, if you have experience with shooting weddings on film, please reach out to me. I would love to chat about it. If you have any other questions about it, or need any advice, or maybe some motivation to venture into film in general, I think that it's very rewarding. It feels very good to shoot on film, and especially for something as beautiful and meaningful as a wedding. I just think that film serves that purpose so well. But yeah, I can really recommend it to anyone, and I had a great day. I'm hoping that I can do that a bit more often in the coming months, coming years. Film is not dead. It is very much alive, and it's having a huge revival, and I'm so happy about that. I probably am going to review a few of my cameras in the upcoming weeks. I'm trying to share some more background on how I got started in film photography, a few tutorials, maybe some reviews for cameras. I'm going to share that on this channel hopefully soon. And if you have any comments about this video, please leave a comment. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I really want to be encouraging about film on this channel, and I'm so thankful you're here, so thankful you watched this. Have a great day.